on how to strategically adapt as an element of international students' domestication and foreignization at the university. So I would say, without further ado, welcome, Magdalena, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Uwe. Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here with you since the very morning. And then it's a real pity we can't meet all together face-to-face in Prague. But let's hope that next year, when you organize a conference, we will be able to meet and greet and network in a proper way. Let me start. First of all, share my presentation with you. Thank you. So just a short introduction of myself, Magda Sikorska. I represent Poznań University of Technology. I have been recently assigned a role of the project officer for our brand new project that we are having at the university, which is the leading of one of the European university alliances called UNIS. This is a very exciting part of what I'm actually doing at the moment. My today's presentation is going to focus on strategic adaptability as a part of the adapting international students to the university and local society through the processes of domestication and foreignization. So what does these processes actually are? Since my background being a translation from and to English and Polish, I have taken these terms from the translation strategies, first used by Venuti in 1995. These terms actually mean, in terms of foreignization, is preserving the foreign character of the original text when you translate, and domestication is you intervene into the original text and adapt it to the norms of the targeted language. So when it comes to the international students' adaptability, this relates to the foreignization relates to make the students feel at home, whereas domestications is more of the idea of adjusting their way of living to the local culture and society. Yes, so let's look at some global perspectives here. We are talking about international students and let's see how they move around the world. Some statistics here from 2019. You can see that the top destination for international students worldwide is obviously the United States, with more than 20% of the whole intake. But when you look at the statistics more deeper, you would see that top 5 out of the top 5 countries, 4 countries are actually top 5 countries are actually English-speaking ones. That doesn't come as a surprise. But China having a third place, maybe a surprise. Why is that? So the research shows that it's because of the rise of Chinese universities in global rankings, and also its economic growth in the recent years, but also surprisingly a distinctiveness of the Chinese language. So let's look at Poland and how these numbers look like here in my country, actually. So as you can see, the numbers have been rising in the recent years. Right now, I have data from 2018-2019. The number reached almost 80,000 students. And where do they come from? They will actually come mainly from neighboring countries such as Ukraine and Belarus, but also other countries, more distant locations such as India, Spain, or Turkey. So on today's presentation, I'm going to focus on actually 2 universities. One I used to work with, which is the Poznań University of Medical Sciences,
and Poznan University of Technology I'm currently affiliated with. So as you can see, they are both ranked similarly when it comes to the rankings by the type of universities, so approximately 6th, 7th place in our country. But then when you look at the worldwide rankings, they are actually ranked, the medical university is actually ranked higher, whereas PAS a little bit lower. But medical university is definitely a smaller one with 4 faculties and 7,000 students on board, whereas the University of Technology has 9 faculties with 16,000 students. When it comes to the number of international students at the medical university, the number is definitely bigger with 1,000 students. And then with the technology university, the number is definitely smaller with 325 students, but this only concerns the full degree students. So when it comes to the students from let's say Erasmus or exchange students, you will need to add up to this number because approximately 150 students would come to our university every year for this kind of exchange. And you have also here some top 5 countries where the students are actually coming from. So what are actually the benefits of international students for university and local society? Definitely they would bring internationalization and allow cross-cultural interaction on campus. The educational diversity and opportunity to discuss the broader affairs, not only from a domestic, but also from the global perspective. That's definitely an advantage. And then already mentioned today at our conference a couple of times, an interesting idea and so much important in these COVID times nowadays is the idea of the internationalization at home, which is definitely beneficial for local students. This gives a great opportunity for the development of several skills, such as mastering foreign languages or obtaining a global perspective for students, for local students.
Yeah. So let's come back to the benefits of having international students at the university and in the society. The important factor here is also the financial factor, actually. So the students would contribute to the host country's economy. How? For instance, when they stay in the city, they would benefit, there are a lot of benefits for the city because the students would spend money in restaurants, taxis, and local attractions. But sometimes they would even buy apartments, houses, and they would make other investments in the city. In the future, they may even become business partners of locals. So this is a very interesting aspect when you look from the broader perspective here. Yes, so students who want to study abroad are expected to adapt to the new culture, new environment, and surrounding. Research shows that these students face several adjustment phases. One of them being academic adjustment and the other two sociocultural adjustment and psychological adjustment. In the adaptation process, it is crucial from an international student's perspective to feel safe, to have an easy access to vital information. So this is very, very important, especially at the beginning, at the adaptation phase. So what are these strategies in welcoming and adjusting international students to your university? From my experience at the very primary phase, they are actually based on 3 concepts and 3 ideas, 3 services you can offer to your students. This would be an orientation specifically targeted at international students, but also in a broader sense, high quality student services and successful university body program. How the students would benefit from it? Definitely, these services would allow the students to immerse into local culture, society, and to mingle with the local students. They would allow to introduce them to the domestic customs and cultures, tradition. And in that way, that would make the students would make the best of their internationalization experience. So let's start with orientation days. These services that we offer to our students definitely play a crucial role in the students' domestication process. They would allow the students to familiarize themselves with school, with the surrounding, with the environment. In that way, students can learn the school dynamics and adjust to the local academic atmosphere. It's also a great opportunity to present the local culture and immerse the students into the local society. It's a great chance to learn about a new country you are actually living in for a couple of years, probably. You also want to discover local food and local students. So let's look at some examples. Here you have some, I have compared and contrast how I used to do it when I was at the medical university and now how we do it at the technology university. Of course, some activities are actually common, like some kind of different kind of welcoming events, campus tours, city tours, open hours. In that way, the students really feel welcome at the university and they would easily overcome the very first adjustment phase. What is typical for the technology university, we would tend to organize there a Polish Culture Day, which actually is a great example of this domestication process that we offer for the students. Whereas at PUMS, I would say that something distinctive for this university would be the concept of inviting to the orientation days consular agents, ambassadors from the country of origin of those students who are coming to the university. But also, we would then invite over the admission agents who greatly contributed to the students coming to the university. And this is a great idea of this foreignization process where we make them feel at home. So let's move on to the high quality student services that we can offer at the university for the international students to make them adapt as easily as possible to the new environment. At PUMS, there is a counseling and psychological service center where they would offer counseling and psychological support to international students to help them deal with different kinds of problems like cultural adaptation, learning issues, coping with stress, some personal life crisis. They would also have a special advisor that would help the international students in many different ways in problem solving, but he would also work as a mediator between students and the dean in terms of some academic issues and social matters. At PUT, at the Technology University, it's mainly the staff of the International Relations Office that helps the students counsel and organize some psychological support for them, but also arrange for the visits the English-speaking doctors, but also help them in any way, especially at the first stage when they arrive. Of course, everybody is lost and want to know how to get around in the area. The office also closely cooperates with our town hall, Poznań Town Hall, in order to support foreigners. For instance, with the help of the so-called Migrant Info Point, where they would organize a lot of activities for foreigners and also for international students, and also some integration and multicultural events. So I want to share with you some example of the program, the support program that was organized by our city, Poznań. It's called Airbag. And actually, it helps to fight discrimination based on color, ethnic origin, or religious belief. So in some places downtown in the city, there were these signs, airbag signs, attached to the front door so they could be easily visible. And the staff of these in these places, so like restaurants, hotels, cafes, and information points, this staff was trained how to help the students to cushion an unpleasant situation if they come across one. So actually, it can help the foreigners in situations where they are, for instance, assaulted or attacked, or they just simply do not know the language or some procedures they will need to follow. So they can also enter to this place and ask for help. So this is actually, I think, a great project that would increase the foreigners' safety in our city. So a few words about Poznań, actually. It has a great location in Poland because it's actually located halfway between two capital cities, Berlin and our capital city, Warsaw. It has been recently ranked as the third best city to study in Poland. The living costs in Poland, like in most in Poznań, like in most of Poland, are actually still lower when you compare to the other EU countries. So that's a great benefit for the students. Of course, our city is very diverse. It's also a student city because 1/5 of the population are actually students. And the residents of our city come from 120 countries and speak more than 100 languages. So let's move on to the buddy program, which works at both universities. And it's actually a great opportunity for the local students to mingle with foreigners and build future friendships. It enables local students to go through a process of internationalization at home, which was already mentioned. It also promotes cultural exchange and international understanding. It greatly helps to integrate current students and freshmen to make the transition of incoming students to the new environment as smooth as possible. So what do buddies actually do? They would pick up new students from the airport. They would find their way, they would help the students to find their way in the city, but also on campus. And they would definitely answer a lot of questions that the new students might have regarding their studies, the city, the cost of living, and all the important issues you have when you arrive first in the new place. Yeah. So one more thing I wanted to add in terms of buddy is the unibody program that we are having at our university as well. This is a platform we are using, and it's incorporated with our website, where you can see some of our students, so-called buddies or ambassadors here, that have had their profiles, and you can chat with the students via messaging app. So by clicking on chat, and you go to this messaging app, and you can easily chat with them on your mobile. So this is actually a product for the prospective students, but it helps us greatly to make the students who are thinking about coming to our university, so they can, get familiar with the university, with the surrounding, but from a perspective of the student, and not only from the perspective of the recruitment staff. So this is, you can also watch blogs, vlogs here, and it's a great prospect analysis for the university, where you know where the students are coming from, what kind of topics they want to discuss. So this is a very valuable resource. So to sum up, definitely this first adjustment plays a vital role in the international students' process of adaptation. The understanding of the local culture and academic dynamics is definitely crucial when you come to a new place to study. This allows the students to emerge into the local culture without losing their own identity, which is very important, I believe. So when you offer a well-prepared and targeted, especially for the international students, orientation and variety of supportive services, it makes them feel safe and protected and welcomed. They would adapt better to the academic structure and requirements. So those students who became familiar with the culture and local society, later they would thrive in the new environment. But what is also important, and we cannot forget about this, that we offer these services to every international students, but not all of them would take the full advantage of it. And still, it's a fact that some of the students cannot that easily adapt to the new environment. And it is really imperative for each and every higher education institution to reach out to these students. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Magdalena. So as I know now from the sessions before, usually it takes a few minutes before people start to pose questions. And as I always offer for sessions where the speaker is alone, I take the role of the one who asks the questions, if that is fine for you.
Yes.
But we have here at least a thought already from Svetlana. The thought is just I am not entirely comfortable with applying a term domestication to human being, as it may easily be misinterpreted by someone who doesn't have a translation studies background. It may also be considered offensive in some context. So perhaps some caution in using the term. What do you think about, I think it is one of what is interesting with this to me is this is exactly when we cross the border between the academic world, and society. That's some things that are very clear in a certain academic setting are not clear in another. For me, the example is always discrimination, which in mathematics is not a problem. But outside mathematics, it means it is a problem. So here, how do you deal with this question?
Yes, I believe we have been discussing this a little bit with Uwe before I posted this,
I had the same
this
issue.
title. But actually, it was to be kind of provocative, I would say, and to call attention. But of course, it's definitely not something I would call that it's like have this negative attitude. And of course, in one of the translation of this word domestication, there is this adaptation thing. So it doesn't necessarily links you to animals or in any kinds of this. So that was not my intention to be assaultive or any of these. It was more of the cutting the attention, and as I think I have presented it, where these where did I get these words from and how I use them. So I guess this offensiveness here is not in question for sure. This was a kind of idea to cut the attention maybe in the title, and I think this is a strategy some of the speakers would use.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I think one of the important things for me is always more on the side of getting a connection between the students and the local community, that it basically, I mean, you pointed out also the specific advantages for the students, but it's also a huge advantage for the other side. Just to see different perspectives, particularly for people who do not have the chance so much to engage with the population outside Poland. But one question I would have is, since Polish is not the easiest of all languages and not that widely spoken as English, how well can your international students communicate then with the local public, or how limited are the options to interact directly, student to public? How do you experience that?
Yes, I think that's an issue. You're right that Polish is not that popular language, and it's kind of difficult to learn for sure. So that's why I see a different approaches from one university to the other. I used to work at the medical university, and we didn't put that much attention to the concept of learning the students the actual the Polish language. Of course, they do have some classes at the very beginning. But it's just the basic communication issue that we were really focusing on. Whereas at the technology university, I see that here is a different approach. Actually, we would really try to emerge to have the students interact with the locals and with the language and with the culture, with the history. So we also have this special project run at my current university. It's called Intercultural Cafe, where we usually talk about different cultural aspects of Poland, but not only, we also presenting some ideas from this different global perspectives. But in terms of language, yes, we try to learn the students, we try to learn them Polish, at least for this basic communication. And yes, we believe it's important. When you go to a country, to a foreign countries, you should learn languages, and the multicultural, multilingual language. It's important to learn language. I think when you learn a new language, you learn a new history, you get the broader aspect of your life. So I think it's very important, and especially if you will be staying there for a few years, I think it's imperative to learn at least some basics.
And just on a side note, what I experienced is that particularly when you go to a country and start a language and it's a difficult one and you have to survive in the setting, what you become is you become much more sensitive to how people must feel in a country where they speak your language. So that the experience to be speechless, who knows me knows that that is very difficult for me, is an experience which might be valuable. I think we have one last question we can answer now, and then we can also look at that. That is a question from David Vargas. The question is, thank you for your presentation. And what institutional mechanisms do you have to identify and help students in distress to avoid them getting hurt themselves and the others? So it's in a certain way, it's also in a way IHAS, because even if we assume it's international students, even if it's about themselves, of course, on the other hand, it has to do with, involving with the environment around them. So can you give us some ideas on that?
Yes, thank you for this interesting question. I think it's a very important aspect, especially now in the pandemic times where you don't have these face-to-face relations and contacts with students. Because I guess earlier on in the previous era where we could really meet the students in class, in the offices, it's easier to detect some problems when you just have the students online, have the online lectures. It's definitely more difficult. But you ask for some mechanism. Yeah, I think it's very difficult to build one at the institutional level. Of course, at both universities, there are these the trained staff, the psychologists that would support the students in need. But first, they would need to realize that they really need this help. And I guess that's the role of the colleagues, of the teachers, of the staff of the university to monitor and observe the students. And if the problem comes up, this should be detected right away, I think. But it's definitely a very difficult to have it like a well working mechanism at the university.
Thank you so much.